I know it's a little odd ending what's supposed to be a handheld Sonic marathon with Sonic Unleashed, but believe me, this has been a long time coming. I've been meaning to do this for quite a while. In a time where I no longer have to put a camcorder in front of a TV to get footage, a time where I thankfully don't have to trade in so many games just to get one thing I'm not even sure I'm going to like in the first place, a time where I'm a little older, a bit more mellowed out, a little more seasoned in some regard. Sonic Unleashed. I've not fully played this from beginning to end since I first got it all the way back in 2008. Now, I've mentioned a couple of times, whenever I go back to this, it's strictly the daytime stages because they signify what I know Sonic for. On top of that, if I'm going back to the daytime stages at all, I'm playing them through the Unleashed project, a mod that implemented the daytime levels in Sonic Generations, so I can enjoy them with a silky smooth frame rate and next to no loading times. The Werehog? I'd be damned if I was going back to that given my sour opinion of the concept so many years back. But again, that was some time ago, and after titles like Sonic Boom Rise of Lyric, amongst a shitload of other things I played between then and now, what's my full opinion of the game today? And I'm talking the whole package.
For both versions.
Right you are. Oh, thank you. I already have a copy of the Wii version. You need to do that.
Just an old habit, I guess. You know, I remember you were so excited for this game.
Was I? I remember being uncertain, but then again, I take anything after Sonic 06.
Yeah, there was also a time you thought Sonic Chronicles was okay.
You're too fucking late. I already made fun of myself for that.
Fuck. Well, when Sonic Unleashed was announced, fans were excited to see Sonic back in his element after that little episode he had a couple years back.
Until a short while later when Sega showed off the next thing for the upcoming game, the Werehog. And it wasn't a completely separate character or anything like that. Sonic would transform into this thing when the sun went down, and I gotta be honest, I thought this shit looked dumb. And after Sonic 06, was this really the best way to climb out of rock bottom when that game left such a sour taste in everyone's mouth? Well, Sonic Team stuck to their guns and released it anyway, and I went and bought it because I was a hopeless sack of shit. Now, Elliot here got the Wii version of the game in the year of release. Was that a Christmas gift?
Yeah, it was.
Well, that gave me an excuse to play it, and I didn't have enough money at the time to own two versions of the game. And you may remember me not thinking very highly of this version, mainly because I was a total graphics whore and whatnot at that point. I grew out of that phase, and I was willing to give it another shot for the sake of completing this video. Speaking of, Elliot, are you ready to head back into Sonic Unleashed?
As ready as I'll ever be.
I'm glad you said that because we're starting with Sonic Unleashed for mobile devices.
What?
You see, Sonic Unleashed ended up fitting into the handheld marathon just fine.
John, what the hell is this?
It's Sonic Unleashed for mobile phones.
You mean like Android and iOS?
Shit, you wish. We're talking 2008, Elliot, back when mobile phone games were barely above the quality of an early 90s title for Windows 95 and shit like that. Look at this, the choppy frame rate, the control display that eats up about half of the fucking screen. The game's colorful, I'll give it that, but goddamn is it awkward to play. If I had a proper controller to play with this, maybe I can actually get past the first Werehog level because the touchscreen is just so unresponsive when making jumps or climbing ledges when you have the controller HUD turned off. Can you blame me? Look how much fucking space this thing takes up. It's a good thing the daytime stage played itself for the most part. It's more automated than Sonic Rush, but there's no funky music to keep my mind off things like that. I didn't turn the music down so you can hear me talk. There's no music at all when playing a stage. We get a few seconds of something when the level begins, but after that, dead silence. Honestly, if it weren't for the half-decent graphics, this would be on the same level as one of those LCD games from Tiger Electronics.
You say half-decent, but look at the Werehog here. That face just screams, shit, what did I get myself into this time?
You're right, he looks more annoyed than feral. That's actually sort of funny. But alright, enough of that. The actual Sonic Unleashed begins with Sonic and Eggman clashing face to face in classic fashion that to this day is still one of my favorite openings in any Sonic game, period. It just fires on all cylinders right off the bat. The hero facing off against the villain, we got some great looking action, intense music, all without much dialogue. It's a great way to start the game. That is until Eggman manages to catch Sonic in his little trap. With the press of a button, Eggman rips the Chaos Emeralds right out of Super Sonic and uses the harness energy to fire a gun that splits the whole fucking planet into different pieces. Miraculously, this isn't the end of the game, and jumping ahead here, none of the townsfolk seem all too stressed about the fact that the entire planet just fucking shattered. There are many things wrong with this picture. I could spend a whole video on that, but okay, it's a video game. I can suspend my disbelief to that extent, and just in time too, because this is where Sonic transforms into the Werehog. So I'm guessing because Sonic was exposed to the negative energy of the emeralds when the gun was going off, Sonic turned into this. They later implied that it was Dark Gaia, the thing Eggman wanted to wake up, was responsible for the change, but I don't see how, as Sonic was still in space when Dark Gaia was awakened. But with the massive beast up and about, Eggman jettisoned Sonic to follow his doom, which we know won't kill him. He survived the fall in Sonic Advance 2 after all. And sure enough, Sonic survives the fall thanks to a mysterious light, and upon pulling himself together, discovers a small creature by his side who can't remember anything about himself. Sonic ends up calling the little thing Chip after noticing him have an orgasm over a chocolate chip dessert. The thing has a perpetual hard-on for food and feels the need to constantly remind us of that unless it's canned hard. He just straight up hate that shit like fuck. Sonic agrees to help Chip regain his memories, leading him to reunite with Tails after trading some fisticuffs with some of Dark Gaia's remnants. Tails believes that Professor Pickle, a world-renowned scholar, can shed some light on what Eggman unleashed. And with his Tornado 1, which is actually his third product according to this fine print, Sonic and friends travel across the fractured planet to find the professor. Unfortunately, Professor Pickle ends up kidnapped by Eggman, but it's not that big of a deal as Sonic ends up rescuing him in no time flat afterwards, especially if you're playing the Wii version. The cucumber-loving senior exposits that this isn't the first time the planet has been under these circumstances. Dark Gaia is a creature that naturally, every million or so years, awakens and breaks the planet apart, completely destroying it in due time. I mean, he's already sort of 3/4 of the way there if you ask me, but thankfully, Eggman's little stunt prematurely woke the thing up, so it's not at full power, meaning Sonic has just enough time to travel across the globe in search of these ancient temples to restore the power of the Chaos Emeralds, and use their energy to put the planet back together. And thus the rest of the game can easily be summed up as Sonic traveling from one temple to the next, restoring the emeralds to their former Jolly Rancher glory, and getting that much closer to stopping Eggman's schemes. Eventually, Chip remembers that he's actually Light Gaia, the polar opposite of his evil counterpart, tasked with the duty of restoring the planet whenever Dark Gaia destroys it. That's one hell of a vicious cycle, wouldn't you say? Planets facing overpopulation? Fuck, time to wake up Dark Gaia. Earth doesn't fuck around, Jesus. Utilizing Dark Gaia's energy, Eggman, in a moment that's been a long time coming if you've been playing since Adventure 1, finally manages to build Eggmanland. It's utter hell, and unfortunately the last stop in Sonic's journey as the final temple is smack dab in the center of this crimson carnival. But Sonic manages to restore the final emerald, but just after doing so he's confronted by Eggman. Hey, is that a Dreamcast? Who's immediately pushed aside by the fully powered Dark Gaia. The creature rips the Werehog right out of Sonic, just in case people didn't like him enough for future games, and almost does away with the Blue Hedgehog until Chip intervenes and, using his latent power, summons every temple from across the world to form a Megazord that makes Zordon blush. Working together, the Gaia Colossus and eventually Super Sonic manage to stop Dark Gaia's rampage and restore everything back to normal. Unfortunately, this means Chip staying behind with Dark Gaia, as he's just as part of the planet's natural way of life as he is, and leaves Sonic with one final goodbye. Sonic takes Chip's bracelet as a memento that we never see again after this game, and runs off into the sunrise with Tails by his side. It's not a terribly complicated story, it's very safe compared to the last game's type of storytelling anyway. It's the classic Sonic vs. Eggman and his nefarious plans, which I don't mind at all. I just find it a bit daft that circumstances this extreme aren't taken a little more seriously. Despite what happened to the world, Sonic Unleashed is rather laid back in its tone. There's some people here and there worried about the state of the planet, but the real focus is on Sonic's world adventure, the kind of people Sonic meets, the variety of cultures to experience, the large selections of food. Final Fantasy 15 clearly took note of Sonic Unleashed because food is everywhere in this game. I remember the first time I caught a glance at Eggman's sandwich here and thinking, God damn it, I want a hoagie now. And normally I detest hub worlds in a Sonic game. I think they're nothing but a distraction from the real meat of the game, and I still feel that way to some extent here, but I'll go out and say, I think these are some of the best in the whole series. 2 reasons. One, there might be a select number of them, but they're all pretty small in size and it doesn't take very long to get where you need to go. Secondly, the townsfolk are more than your run-of-the-mill Welcome to Corneria bunch. A lot of them have their own sort of stories to tell and side quests that span across the entire story. Back then, I could give fuck all about this sort of detail, but this is something I could appreciate a little more upon revisiting this game completely. It's like Majora's Mask in some fashion, and one of the reasons why I loved that game was the people I talked to. Now, I don't think these guys and girls are on the same level if you ask me, but I like the attempt to make the hub worlds mean a little something more, even if the rewards are not much more than achievement points.
Of course, that all applies to the HD version, because the Wii version doesn't really have hub worlds per se, but rather hub menus. You talk to static portraits of townspeople to advance to the next area. It's a stilted presentation altogether for a platformer.
Which is a shame because I like seeing these characters brought to life. This game has a fantastic art style. You know, in Sonic 06, Sonic and his friends just fucking clash with a realistic aesthetic. In Sonic Unleashed, everyone looks right out of a 3D Disney movie, which I think fits perfectly with Sonic's inherently cartoonish design. If you're gonna have Sonic interact with people beyond those green hills, this is how you do it. I'll definitely give Sonic Unleashed that.
The game as a whole just looks amazing too.
Oh man, you're not fucking lying. Still the best looking Sonic game to me by far.
Even today?
You're damn right. The Hedgehog engine, man. This is the first game to use it. God damn, what a first impression. The environments are so beautiful. Character models are super smooth and blend so well with their surroundings. Even when you're moving so blisteringly fast, you can still manage to admire everything around you. It's so damn good.
Except when it causes the frame rate to shit the bed.
Yeah, and it happens a lot too. For as good as the graphics are, I can just smell the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 catching fire trying to render all these lighting effects and polygons at once. Stages like Empire City and especially Adabat get the worst of it. Adabat being frames away from being a fucking PowerPoint presentation during the jungle, tunnel, and water areas.
The Wii version is by no means bad looking. Compared to say Sonic Heroes or Sonic and the Secret Rings, I consider this to be a step up. Sure, it doesn't have the Hedgehog engine, but at least the frame rate doesn't scream in agony half of the time. My only real issue is the level design. Environments are colorful, but sometimes stages feel a bit too spacious and thus empty. I'm willing to go a little easy on it, seeing as this was the first time the development team incorporated the boost formula into a three-dimensional space, and didn't know how to fully integrate it without compromising level design completely.
Well, it's easier to forgive nowadays when the game no longer costs $60, but yeah, Sonic Unleashed was the first game to utilize the boost formula in 3D. Nowadays, we all know what that entails. Sonic's got a standard adventure moveset. He can homing attack chains of enemies, slide underneath tight spaces, do this sweep kick at a standstill. I don't really use this, but the boost function is the most prominent aspect of this game. You got a boost meter that fills up when you collect rings to destroy bad guys, and when you got enough in the tank, you can blast through with Sonic speed with the push of a button. And never before have we controlled a Sonic that moved this fucking fast. I mean, everyone knew he was speedy, but fuck me. It's breathtaking watching Sonic run at these speeds. It's truly a spectacle. We've gone beyond the slower, more methodical approach from past games and went full out. It's certainly a different style of Sonic. One I might even say makes the gameplay just a tad more shallow compared to other games. It's clear that out of all the things they want you to do in Sonic Unleashed, it's going extremely fast and having the reflexes needed to keep that speed going that takes precedence over everything else, including basic exploration and platforming. That stuff is here, but it takes a back seat. It's just like Sonic Rush, but in 3D. It's fun going fast, and if you enjoy that sort of thing, then goddamn do you have something to look forward to here. But the daytime stages gives me very little reason to explore my surroundings, either because of the narrow tunnels that make up the level design, or the high speed they give me constant access to. Unfortunately, Sonic Unleashed tries to have its cake and eat it too, because to progress to other stages, you need to have a certain amount of these sun and moon medals. They're merely collectibles you find in the middle of the stage and nothing more. The thing is, unless you're in an instance where things slow down, these things are next to impossible to spot with this sort of gameplay. This style of game wants you to go fast, not explore, so when you have to stop and look for these things, it's awkward as all hell. It flies straight in the face of its intended formula. Now, the daytime stages do contain several routes to reach the goal ring in an attempt to replicate that classic Sonic the Hedgehog design, and this is something I think future games will execute better, but in this game, looking for stuff that's mandatory for progression with this sort of speed and strict design is not intuitive. There's a reason a lot of people don't bitch about the red rings in Sonic Generations. They're completely optional. If the game were more like a Sonic Adventure title, then I have no doubt it'd be a little better. That's a kind of game that could deliver the speed, but also let you explore things given how broad the design was at points. And again, if the Sun and Moon medals were handled like, say, Power Stars in Mario 64, your end level objective rather than something you find in an inconspicuous vase, that would remedy a lot of problems I just stated.
Well, +1 to the Wii version then, because that's exactly how they're handled. Sun and Moon medals are your reward for completing a stage. The better you do, the more medals you get. And though that means you have to replay stages over again if you don't meet the criteria for later zones, at least you don't have to worry about missing out on something because you zipped right past it.
And I greatly appreciate that. I think it helps that the Wii version was developed by Dimps, as the folks responsible for the games that introduced the boost formula. I think they had a better understanding of how to handle mandatory MacGuffins. It's just a shame that the Wii version is missing 2 whole levels compared to the HD version. It doesn't have Missouri despite still hosting a boss fight there, and Empire City was completely omitted, probably because it had no real significance in the plot if you think about it. It's just sort of there. But now we're getting to what might as well be the second half of the package, the Werehog.
When the sun goes down, the Werehog comes up, where speed is completely gone, and in its place is a basic platformer with beat-em-up elements. On the plus side, looking for the medals with this kind of design isn't so bad, because unlike the daytime levels, you're encouraged to look around your surroundings, whether it be for those medals, solutions to simple puzzles, or maybe some power-ups to help take out some enemies. For some reason, Sonic has stretchy limbs while in this state, allowing him to climb ledges with ease, shimmy along poles for tight traveling, and most importantly, clobber the shit out of enemies 6 ways from Sunday. You can even grab these small little things and just smash their faces together like the world's biggest douchebag. Combat is the major focus of the Werehog sections, from big titans, magical wizards, to a whole pack of robots! The sheer quantity of things Sonic will punch in the dick is huge, but there's not much in variety, sadly. Halfway through you'll see every enemy the game has to offer, the only difference being the amount of you face instead of what you face. And though the Werehog has a large selection of combos at his disposal, even more so when you collect enough experience points to level up, the basic X and Y combos are usually enough to do the job, no matter the opponent. While nothing's stopping you from pausing the game to look up the new things you can do, the game gives me little reason to try out new things. A consequence of, again, the small enemy pool, though pulling off a pile driver on top of other mooks is somewhat satisfying.
Hack and slashes and character action games were all the rage around this time. I don't blame Sega for wanting to capitalize on that market, even if it was with someone primarily not known for combat. But even with a fundamentally solid structure, the Werehog sections are still bogged down with overly strained course design. Stages go on way too long with Sonic the Werehog. I'm flabbergasted that times like these are still met with an S rank. Jesus Christ. It's a few things, from the platforming that isn't anything you haven't seen already, the camera that can be a real fickle fuck at times. Seriously, this thing can't make up its mind. Sometimes you can control it manually, the other times you can only shift it left or right like some sort of shaky cam. I don't get it. But the worst offender of the overly long stages stem from the large number of encounters, playing that same battle theme every single time you fight something. That really aggravates me. Sonic Unleashed has a great soundtrack, and some of my favorite pieces are actually the Werehog stages, the themes that just play when you're exploring the stage, but every time you fight someone, it's da-da-da-da-da-da. God damn it, I just want to listen to that sexy jazz. It's a shame that the noodle limbs are only a means to punch something from far away. In cutscenes, that motherfucker pulls off some sweet-ass Spider-Man moves and parkour, and I'm thinking, man, that'd be awesome to do in stages. Instead, we grab a ledge here, hump a pole here, and swing every once in a while here. Movement-wise, the Werehog is quite limited. Even his double jump isn't that exciting. It doesn't even always have a drop shadow for some baffling reason, making platforming a little difficult at times.
I would argue it's even worse in the Wii version. Besides the Werehog having a larger prominence altogether, his combat skills are not as expansive and a little more intrusive to pull off. Though you're free to use the GameCube controller or classic controller, I think they really wanted you to use the Wiimote nunchuck combo, because to pull off combos, you have to swing Sonic's left and right arms alternatively for each strike. This is more natural with motion controls, if not a little tiring, but with button inputs,
it feels off. Plus, like Elliot said, his move pool is just not as big, so you're doing a lot of the same shit repeatedly. It's still better than, say, Sonic Boom Rise of Lyric, then again, that's not very hard to accomplish, and you say the Werehog has more prominence in the Wii version?
Well, in this version, stages are mission-based. When you're done with the main act, you need to play the stage again with a different stipulation, like collecting a certain number of rings or something like that. The number of missions between regular Sonic and the Werehog are the same. It's just that the Werehog missions naturally take way longer than the daytime stuff. So in essence, it's really no different than the HD version when comparing day to night ratios. It just feels worse given the amount of times you see the Werehog start another mission and howl like a wolf.
Though it's not as obvious, the HD version has different acts within a zone as well. They're not mandatory, but I recommend playing them anyway because that's more Sun and Moon medals you can collect, so you can at least have a change in scenery rather than repeating the same levels again if you need more medals. The HD version also has DLC, the Adventure Packs. Basically, they're super hard versions of stages created by someone that has a massive spike fetish, so you can give those a shot if you feel the daytime stages weren't challenging enough. I remember this game kicking my ass in 2008. Since you move so fast, you need higher than average reflexes to perform optimally and avoid either running into an obstacle 300 miles per hour or plummet down a bottomless pit. That specifically might happen on more than one occasion given the do or die scenarios and quick time events the game is littered within the second half. And need I mention Eggmanland, the final level of the game? It's fitting for something technically in the works since 1998. This Circus from Hell delivers on the pain and anguish on both accounts. You play as both Sonic and the Werehog. 72 minutes! That's how long it took on my first attempt so many years back. Nowadays I can finish it in under half an hour, but goddamn, just goddamn! And the final boss is just the fucking worst. I'll gladly give props to the Wii version for just making the first half of it punch out. Just look at it. It's fucking punch out. Sonic Unleashed can be tough, perhaps in my opinion, a little too tough. I wouldn't recommend this as someone's first Sonic game, that's for sure. It requires more than what your standard Mario game asks for, and to some, that could be a good thing for the sake of giving the game its own identity, but if say your average Joe who's just looking for another platformer can't even finish the fucking thing, is that really a good thing after all? As a Sonic fan, I got this because I'm just that, a Sonic fan. It's expected from me. I know what to expect, but I still get my ass kicked from time to time in this game.
If anything, I would recommend the Wii version to start out. It's not as pretty or as fast as the HD game, but I think it's easier to jump into and it doesn't ask for too much from the get-go. It takes its time with things, and yeah, at points the levels feel a little empty, but once you get a hang of it, you'll be clearing levels way faster than you can manage in the HD version. Stages like Eggmanland are even broken up into separate missions, so you don't have to do everything in one go.
Oh, sweet Jesus, thank God.
I was able to finish this game, and I'm not the biggest aficionado in platformers. Let that speak for how accessible this version of the game is. Still, that doesn't totally negate the Werehog stuff though. It doesn't matter what version you play, it's the antithesis of what's expected from a Sonic game, offering nothing that games like God of War or Devil May Cry already deliver on a much better scale.
Seriously, go play those if you really want to punch something in the face. You know, I may not enjoy the Werehog still, but I'm glad Sonic Unleashed was a thing because it gave us a form of Sonic that Sonic Team would later refine and polish, resulting in games that I think anyone, not just Sonic fans, can enjoy. Not to mention, the game is oozing with charm. Like, it's clear Sonic Team wanted to apologize for the 15th anniversary and they wanted to make up for it. Sonic Unleashed is a technical marvel in looks and sound. It's got a shitload of personality too, you know, the world you travel in, the people you meet. And there's plenty to do and collect outside the main game if you want to go for achievements and all that. In a lot of ways, Sonic Unleashed reminds me of why I love the franchise in the first place. It's just that fucking Werehog, man. It just wasn't needed. Hence why I only go back to the daytime levels. You know, Sonic Team originally thought that without the Werehog, Sonic Unleashed would be considered too short of a game to sell well. But if Sonic Colors and Generations were anything to go by, people don't give a shit about length if the game is good from beginning to end.
So, when's the SGV playthrough, I guess?
I don't know. Sometime this year, I guess.
Yeah, at least you know you'll enjoy half of it.
I suppose so.
You know, remember back then when we used to argue which version was better?
I do, actually. I see the qualities of both versions now, so yeah, that was a thing.
This is odd. Usually we talk shit to each other at the end of these.
Did you want to talk shit?
I mean, I guess I'm expecting a little more, I guess.
I got it.
What do you want to do?
I hate this.
I don't know what this is. No, you gotta grab the fucking rings, you idiot. Go, you're back.
I'm trying!
You're back. Back. No, the other way.
Sucks.
It's like,
How many more laps?
I don't fucking know. That was like the first. I'm not moving.
Ah!
Isn't this fun?
No.
Okay.